All right. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for watching another Greenbridge Investing market analysis. This is Mark, of course. And in this session, I'm going to be going over Bitcoin and the major markets, but I want to do something a little bit different than what I normally do. I usually spend about 15 or 20 minutes on pretty much the same markets. So what I want to do is I want to go over some of the main ones like Bitcoin and the NASDAQ and stuff like that. But then I'm going to open up the forum for you. So you can tell me what stocks you want to see, and we could spend more time on your stocks. Okay, so if I have to spend a half hour talking, at least most of that time will be on things you want to see for sure. All right, so with that being said, let's get started. All right, this is for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult a licensed investment advisor. By the way, if you're new to Greenbridge, thank you for joining us. If you haven't checked out our site yet, please go to greenbridgeinvesting.com. We have a free membership. We have a free chat room you can participate in, ask questions. We also have an active investor membership where we share swing trade ideas and portfolio management ideas. All right, so anyway, with that, let's get into the Bitcoin chart. Now, today is Friday, okay, and this week was interesting. We started out with this large bearish candle, right? And it got everyone excited as usual, but it didn't go anywhere. And now we're stuck in this 95.64 to 10.168 resistance zone. We're stuck right inside there. That's why we are not going to be aggressively calling swing trade longs in this location. This is not a good spot, even though it's possible that some news can come out or whatever and Bitcoin can squeeze through here, but the probability isn't good and the reward risk is not attractive either. So in a situation like that, it's best to just stand aside and let this thing provide a better opportunity. If it means that we have to miss the rest of the move, or for those of you that are not in, if it means that you missed a move higher, it doesn't matter because at some point there'll be a continuation pattern if Bitcoin is going to have a much broader move. That's a very important concept to understand. What we'd like to see, now keep in mind, we do have that swing trade idea out there that Andrew called, what was it, back here on Saturday, the previous Saturday. And I know some people are in that. So for those that are in that, you just let this thing do its thing, right? Let the market decide the outcome of the trade. The less you interfere, the better, even if it's a stop out. But what we'd like to see to share a new swing trade idea, one that better reward risk for one, is a retest of the 8,500 level. That would be a good location because that would be near the range low. Does that mean it will touch 8,500? Maybe not. It may go to 88 or 80, 86 or whatever, fool around there and then give us a signal. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen, right? That's not any type of prediction because we are lingering in this resistance, which is typically a sign of strength. But my point is, there's nothing to do here but let the market figure itself out. And all we can do is wait for a better opportunity if the market wants to present one. If 8,500 is cleared, we're still looking at this 76.95 support zone, okay, as the main inflection point. That's the trend. That's what defines this entire structure as a bullish trend right now, as long as price stays above that. So that's all we can do. People that are jumping in and out in this thing constantly are day trading. And if you don't realize you're day trading, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. All right, anyway, that's Bitcoin. I don't want to overdo it. I tend to talk too much. Let's get into the NASDAQ. Hey, Michael. Great. Oh, good. You have a bunch of stocks for me. All right. I was hoping I'd have someone with a bunch of stocks. Otherwise, I'd have to just come up my own. Okay. Let's go into, let's take a look at the NASDAQ real quick. All right. And so this is, again, the lesson to be learned here from the NASDAQ is the lesson of opinions. A lot of people have this bearish opinion, okay? The market's too high. The market's going to double top. The market's going to have this type of shape. Blah, blah, blah. The news is negative. Blah, blah, blah. Market doesn't care. The market is going to do what it's going to do anyway. This squeezed out a lot of shorts. Now, when NFP came out earlier today, the market wasn't looking great. And it looked like it was going to be a bearish day. And in the investor chat room, I put a comment in there. I said, if it takes out 95.75, look for more bearish momentum. It never took 95, never even touched that level. What was that level? Where did I come up with that? It's yesterday's low, okay? 95.75. Never touched it. So the market was strong. And then as the day went on, this thing just kept pushing new high after new high after new high. So again, no opinions. This is great for stocks, you know, great for our stock portfolio. We've been careful not to get too heavy into this, but as long as it keeps going, we're not going to get in its way. I've been saying it's too early to call this thing a short. Although, you know, we get these little signs here and there, too early. And you just have to play out the stock. Now we have ROKU and a bunch of those other ones. Hopefully we'll be benefiting more from this with this type of breakout. And look, this thing's going to close in about a half hour. We close like this. This is a new high, like on the year. Okay, I believe. We close like that. That's pretty serious. Okay, now keep in mind the NASDAQ 100 is like, you know, the FANG stocks pretty much only. And a lot of stocks may not be participating in this, but this is definitely a good sign. All right, so nothing to do there, right? We're not going to be going crazy with new positions. We're just going to ride what we got and rotate like we've been doing, rotating the profits out and look for new setups and something else. At some point, this market will turn, but at this time, there's no reason for it to turn, and it's Friday, it's after NFP, and this thing is going to close strong. So now again, a chart can't predict news. If there's some kind of surprise between now and Sunday night or Monday, you know, this thing can start out gapped lower or whatever. But at this time, you know, there's nothing in the chart that says weakness. All right, so that's the NASDAQ. Now, I'm going to skip the DAX because, you know, pretty much, unless you guys want me to go over the DAX, I'm going to skip the DAX because the DAX is pretty much the same story, right? I want to go straight into something more interesting like gold. Let's take a look at gold. Now, if you want to see the DAX, I'll go over it. Just let me know, and I'll do it after gold. But let's take a look at gold. Gold is interesting. Gold pulled back, and a great lesson that we can learn from gold. Back here, okay, on this pin bar, we talked about this, and we talked about how we missed this long, completely missed it, but we let it go because we thought the risk was too wide. This candle was too wide, and we didn't want to share this idea, okay? And it looked like a dumb idea. You know, it looked like a mistake at first, or, hey, you know, you guys missed out, blah, blah, blah. Okay, whatever. But we don't chase. And this is why we don't chase. Like if gold was going to go to 1800 and just keep going, well, we just have to wait for a continuation pattern. But instead, it found a lower high, and now it's not looking so hot. I had people asking me if gold is bearish. Gold is not bearish. The momentum may be bearish. This is a bearish candle for sure, and it took out this inside bar low. It also took out some important levels inside this range, but it's starting to find some stability here. We want to buy gold. I mean, I know Andrew put that article out yesterday about putting more for the portfolio, and a bunch of people were interested in like the CFDs or certain gold stocks or whatever, and that's fine. That's long term. But these pullbacks on gold, these are the buying opportunities, okay? Not the highs. The lows are the buying opportunities, but you can't step in front because like earlier today, this thing was fooling around 1680, right? And look at the low. 1670 is the low. So if you stepped into this thing at like 1689, like I got the bottom, well, you have to take 20 points of pain, right? That's why you can't step in front of these things. Let this thing stabilize, and it's in a great location. So we get a pin bar next week. We get some kind of inside bar, bullish. I'm all for sending out a swing trade, you know, a new swing trade long, at least for the CFD, you know, the gold CFD, which is XAU. All right, so keep an eye on gold. It's definitely, you know, in a great location. Silver is also, someone asked about silver earlier as well. Remember, silver is going to follow gold. The problem with the silver CFD is the size of the CFD. It's a large contract, which means you have to be careful with your sizing, you know, especially if you have a smaller account, because you get caught in that thing, it can really be a pain to deal with, okay? Gold is actually a much smaller contract. I know everyone has different account sizes, and I'm going to go with the idea that the average account size is around, $2,500 to $3,000, maybe $5,000, something like that. If you have an account of that size, you should not be putting on standard lots of gold because your risk is too high. All right, so just wanted to put that out there. Anyway, gold's in a great location. We want to buy it. We just need a setup. Now, got some questions here. Okay, so ROKU, TXG, CTXS. Yes. Go over new stocks we haven't looked at in a while. Well, no, so I wanted to go over stocks that you want to see. So that's great, Michael. And let's see, a Forex trade you have your eye on for next week now that NFP's out. Great question. And PSTI. Okay, great. So let's take a look. So let's start with, well, since I'm on my Forex list, let's take a look at the Forex because, we've had some great trades in the month of May with Forex. Now, we don't always get that. And sometimes we may go a couple of weeks without any trades. Now look at this. This is the dollar franc. This one was tricky. Okay, this just turned today. We were interested in a long here, but now we're not going to do anything with this per se. But what this can tell us though is something about the euro and the pound. Okay, so now like the pound and the euro, they've been pushing their highs. They've been looking great. Here's the British pound, and let's take a quick look at the euro. Right, the euro's got the bearish candle on it. See that? The bearish pin bar. So what we want to see for next week on something like the euro or the pound, since they've been so nice and strong, we want to see this thing pull back. All right, now who knows where it's going to pull back to? It may pull back to this area right here, which is like what, 1134 or 11 and a quarter, around there. That would be an ideal spot. Or if it goes back to this old range resistance, which I would find it hard to believe that would pull back that far with this type of move. So the reason why I come up with that 11 and a quarter is because it is relevant to this peak here, okay, back here, back in March. So that's what we're going to look for, either along in the euro or in the pound. And the reason why the dollar franc is important in that is because the dollar franc is pretty much inverse. So if the dollar franc turns and goes higher, that means this is probably going to pull back, right? That's usually the relationship. So we want to see that rather than, and why aren't we going crazy with the dollar franc? For those of you that aren't maybe as familiar with it, it's a real pain. That pair and the dollar Canadian, they're a real pain to trade. They're a lot slower. There's more noise in them. And like the euro and the pound, when they make their move and they get to the point fast. We like to reach our first target like right away, especially in Forex. So we don't want to be in something for 2 or 3 weeks, watching this thing and then, this and that. And then there's some noise and, should we get out early? At least if it goes to its first target, our risk is reduced and it's a lot easier to hold. So that's our plan as far as Forex goes. We pretty much stick to these dollar cross pairs. And Andrew looks occasionally at these other ones like, pound franc or euro franc or whatever. So we'll see if anything comes up in those, but these are the main ones. And I like this sign in the euro here because it means we're probably going to pull back a bit and that'll give us a buying opportunity. Okay, so that's the euro. Now let's jump into some stocks here because we have a bunch of stocks. All right, great. So let's hope that the euro pulls back. Yeah. Well, I don't know, Michael. It's in a bullish trend. This breakout is pretty serious, so I don't know about pulling back too far. We're looking to buy this thing, so I don't know. Maybe you can put on a hedge somehow. But yeah, I understand though. I understand what you're saying. So let's take a look at some stocks. I want to review, so Michael says ROKU, TXG, and CTXS because we have some trades in those. And it's important to review trades, especially as the week is coming to a close, because it can give you some perspective into what to expect for next week and how to adjust. Because sometimes people don't realize, when you're with a website like us, for example, some people don't realize that there are points where you have to use your own discretion and you have to be prepared to do that. Sometimes things move too fast or we may not see something and we can't make every single decision. So there are times when you need to be prepared, and that's what we're hoping to give to our members is that ability to also be able to make those decisions with confidence. That's a key thing. So let's take a look at ROKU. And yeah, look at this pin bar. So ROKU, here's the trade. You can see the trade idea that I sent out like a week ago, a little over a week ago. And this thing we bought at 109.50, right? Didn't reach its first target. The market got a little iffy and this thing pulled back. This didn't even think, it just pulled back, okay? This pullback is not good when the NASDAQ's pushing highs, okay? This really should not have done that. That's relative weakness, all right? But the NASDAQ is really strong. So now today we get this pin bar, okay? See that? So this is good. I mean, at least it's reacting somewhat to that strength. And obviously on Monday, I want to see this high taken out. 104.25 needs to be taken out, and we should be, at higher prices. Now, again, ROKU is a mover. Any little news comes out, any little catalyst comes out, this thing will be back to 108, 109. It could do it in one day. I mean, that's how this thing moves. So the other day, I think it was yesterday, when this thing was fooling around those 101, what's the low here? 103.84. I think it was yesterday when we were fooling around the 101.84, these lows, yesterday's lows. I went into the chat room and I said, if this thing closes lousy or whatever, and you don't want to take the risk to the stop, you can always get out and get back in. Okay, and that's what I mean by discretion. We usually don't do that. A lot of times, we set our stop, which in this case is 98.70. We predetermine our risk, and then we leave it up to the market because we know that the less we interfere, the better. And so maybe ROKU will work out here. Never went to our stop, and it would be annoying if we got out early and this thing went to 100, which, we still had about $1.30 before our stop, and now this thing turned, right? Now this thing closed at, 103.79, near 104. So, okay, and we got a pin bar. So, all right, let's give this thing a chance. Nice situation here. I would like to see this thing gapping higher, or at least taking out today's high on Monday. And that thing should at least give this thing some momentum. Hopefully, the NASDAQ stays strong. I mean, again, we need the NASDAQ to cooperate. What my concern about ROKU is the fact that the NASDAQ is super strong and this thing is lagging. That means if the NASDAQ pulls back, this thing will probably go straight to the stop. I mean, that's what relative weakness is. So something to keep in mind. Now, some news can come out of nowhere, and next thing you know, this thing is up 10 points. That's the way ROKU is. So it's important to know your instrument. So great for bringing that up, Michael. Let's take a look at TXG real quick. TXG. Now, in this environment, because Michael asked me, in this environment, do I want to go over some stocks that we're looking at for some potential trades? And, with the NASDAQ on the high like that, I'm very cautious. So I'll be looking, as the week closes out, then I'm going to be evaluating charts to see what may make sense for next week, assuming that the NASDAQ stays strong. Now, this is, Andrew's been talking a lot about this one. It's 10X. So this thing here, it had this breakout, had this consolidation breakout situation, okay? Basically a classic wave 4 in terms of Elliott wave 4 to wave 5. And now, wave 5 is trying to get something going here, right? We have one leg, we have an initial leg, and we have this little consolidation. Now, I don't know where you guys, where you have it from, but I mean, based on this, as long as if this inside bar stays intact and we take out this high next week, this thing should be in good shape because it'd just be a higher low, especially since it's testing the consolidation range. A lot of times, this is what will occur. You have these consolidations, right? Kind of like this triangle situation, right? You have one of these kind of things. And a lot of times, this isn't the greatest example. Gold actually gave us a better example. But a lot of times, it'll go back and retest that trend line before it continues. So this is a little steeper. It's a little bit steeper of a move for that thing to do. But as long as you get your higher low, as long as it stays intact, okay, the low here is 78.64. As long as that level stays intact and we're closing above it on Monday, we're still above it, and you're taking out today's high, which is 82.34, then you should be in good shape with this thing, okay? Now, I know these things kind of have a personality of their own, They're going to react to a lot of different types of news. So just have to be patient with this thing, because obviously when it goes, right? I mean, look at this thing from the March low. It's a pretty significant move. So the potential here is still good. I mean, you still have some room to test those 90s, or maybe even a little higher. So I wouldn't worry about this one. You know, so far so good. I mean, Roku is in a much worse position. Let's take a look at CTXS. Okay, which I know this is not. I believe, Michael, you're the one that gave us this idea. And this was off a nice setup that you called, or you mentioned back here. And there was a nice move off of it. Now again, it's starting to act relatively weak. In fact, you have this head and shoulders situation, okay, which, you know, just because there's a head and shoulders, you have a shoulder over here, right? You have a head, you have a shoulder. A lot of people right away, they'll jump to a bearish conclusion, and that's not correct, because you can get those patterns randomly all day long. If the trend is generally bullish, just because a head and shoulders shows up doesn't mean that the trend is changing, okay? It doesn't mean that. It may mean that the momentum may be changing, but what you can't lose sight of, sure, MITK, sure. What you can't lose sight of is this situation right here. And this is what a lot of people lose sight of. So let me ask you guys, let's see who's been paying attention. All right, so if we have a low that was made back in March, all right, and then we have a higher low over here back in like almost the beginning of April, what's this section right here on CTXS? What is this section that I put in the blue box? What is that? Who can tell me what that is? Because I know, you know, people that are new to this are going to say, oh, there's a head and shoulders in there. But what is this really? The first target, and just turn around and, right. So, and that's, again, and you know what, Michael, that's noise. Just like Roku. And that's something we have to deal with in these things. But what is this box? What is this? I know you guys are like about a minute behind, so I'll give you a minute to answer. But while you're doing that, so wave 4 consolidation, right, there are the answers, right, higher low, yes. That's what this is, a higher low, as long as this support holds, okay, 135.14. So basically you can round that to the whole number, 135. As long as you're staying above that, and now look at today's candle, right? This is a nice little, it's not a pin bar, but it's you know, it's nice. You need to take out this high next week, okay, and you're in good shape, right off the range low. In fact, that may be an opportunity to add to the position, you know, a small bite, and see if it can at least go back to the middle of the range or near that range high, which, you know, gives you a little extra there. So CTXS, it's in good shape. And that's, I'm pointing it out because, again, a lot of people lose sight of that higher low because they get too focused in on the candle pattern, you know, the overall pattern, which, sure, you need to be cognizant of that, but you also need to look at that bigger picture, which is what we usually refer to as context. Okay, so great question there. Now let's see. So let's move on here to PSTI. All right, let's take a look at that one. PSTI. Because again, I wanted this session to be more for you guys because, you know, I tend to talk a lot and I don't want to spend 45 minutes, you know, half of that time on things that you guys are like, okay, that's nice, but I want to see this stock. Okay, so PTSI. This looks like one of those, you know what this is here? This is a day trader stock for sure because it's inexpensive, relatively inexpensive. And then you have this low here. What is that? $7.26. So 7.25 over here. It had this crazy move back, you know, in April, going into May here, right? Or going actually just in April, and it's been consolidating ever since. So here's the thing with these day trader stocks, and it's day trader because it's inexpensive. And this is going to be like, again, this is going to pop up on their scanners. And then you're going to have these guys on their YouTube channels, you know, again, they buy 20,000 shares and it goes up 50 cents. And they talked about how they made $10,000 today. And you're like, wow, how do you do that? All right, when you buy 20,000 shares of something, you have the possibility of doing that. So a lot of people don't know how to handle 20,000 shares. That's the thing. So my point is you're going to have a lot of guys laying into these stocks with a lot of size, which means they're going to be very noisy. So as far as the bigger picture, this looks to be a consolidation preparing for, it's like one giant higher low consolidation. That's what it looks like, a wave 4 basically. But there's a lot of noise here. You have this pin bar in your favor, but I don't like this current candle situation here. I mean, I don't like this. This is not the kind of follow through you should be getting after a pin bar. So your key level right now that needs to hold is going to be around this level here, this low, which is basically 7.25. To give it a little more room, 7 even, right? Go to the even number, and that's your baseline right there. This thing closes below that, I would step aside and wait for stability. Now, if this thing can take out these highs, these recent few highs, it gives a little consolidation right here. What are these highs? 8.25 basically. You close above there, then that could be the beginning of a new leg higher, and that can take you to like $10. That's within reason, for a swing trade. So that's what I'd say. I mean, it's definitely not. It's been acting basically not exactly weak, just consolidating, and these could be very tough to sit through at times. So just keep an eye on that. Keep in mind, if it takes out 7, it needs to close below 7, number one. Number two, if you get out of it and you take a loss, it doesn't mean you can't get back in if stability shows up the next day or two. You understand? Sometimes they fake you out, and sometimes there's no way to avoid that. It's better to bang it out and take the small loss than sit in this thing and watch it go back to 3. Okay? Like I know some people had to sit through with those cannabis stocks. So just keep that in mind. The mistake you don't want to make is you don't want to do that 100 times. Okay? But you do it here and there, you bang it out, and it turns back your favorite, you get back in. No big deal. And if you have to bang it out a second time, then just leave it alone. You don't want to get caught banging it out over and over again. Okay, so that's PSTI. So Andrew was talking about a position trade. I tend to think more on the swing trade time frame. Okay, I don't really, especially with these, I'm very short-term oriented. So I want something to reach my targets in the next week or two or something like that, or in the next few days. I don't want to sit in one of these things for 6 months. But that's just me. So Andrew usually has a longer time horizon on that. So, any more specific questions, definitely you can ask him. But that's what I'm seeing on the short term. Okay, from more of a swing trade perspective. All right, let's take a look now at MITK. Okay, that's the next one here. And I know Andrew talks about this one a lot, and he's brought this one up to me many times. MITK, we talk about this on the podcast. So, wow, this thing's come a long way. Is this the right one? Yeah. From when we were talking about it, I know Andrew was talking about that one like way back here or somewhere. I know it was cheaper. It was definitely cheaper when we talked about this on the podcast. I forgot about this one. You broke this resistance here. This resistance at, what is this? Let me see what number this is here. 8.25. So basically 8.5, 8.25. We'll say 8.25. That old resistance is now your new support. Notice the lows here, 8.41. This low here, 8.46. So basically 8.25. Now, what do you do now? You can't buy this thing now. Okay. You have a V bottom in place. You have a vertical. This is, when you see this type of thing, if you're not in it, you have to step aside. If you're in it, then I would definitely be selling, locking in profits for sure, because these vertical moves, a lot of times, this is when like the herd jumps in, or this is when it shows up on a day trader radar and they all jump in, and this is an opportunity to lock in profits if you're in for much lower prices. I know Andrew talked about this a while ago. So I don't know if any of you guys are in this, but here's what you have to watch out for. And like, why shouldn't we jump in now, right? Not just only because it's a high. Look at this resistance area. Look at the vulnerability. If we go back, all the way back, like a year almost, right? Look how price action was acting back around this area. Okay, so this level, this high right here, 10.25, 10.5. That's a tough spot for it. Now today we closed at what? 10.35. So I would hate to be buying it now. Okay? First target at 9.90. Yeah, and that's exactly why we would sell, in such an area. Now at this point, so you're in, you locked in some profit, just let it ride. Okay, great. T2 at 1050. Okay, and that's a reasonable target, because now notice you're selling into the resistance. You're not buying, you're selling, right? While all the herd members and all the people watching on their breakout scanner, they're all buying it now, and they're buying it from you. That's the position you want to be in, not chasing this thing. So let this thing, just let it run. At this point, when you see the vertical thing and you've locked in some profit, at that point, you just let it run. Okay, you let your winner run, see how far it wants to go. Obviously, we have a third target in there. I don't know it off the top of my head, but you just let it run and see if it goes to that third target, and just sit back and let the market determine the outcome of the trade, right? Isn't it great when all you have to do is watch and not have to think every 2 seconds? That's really, it helps a lot when you take yourself out of the equation, and why we set up our orders, basically so that you know everything in advance. You don't have to sit here and guess. Should I get out now? Should I do this now? Should I do that now? What if this? What if that? It's like, no, everything's predetermined. Let the market figure it out. Okay, great. So that's a good one. What a move on that one, man. Okay, so let's see what else we got. Any other ones? I think we covered everyone's stocks here. And I've only been talking for 30 minutes. So you see that worked out pretty well. I covered stocks you wanted to talk about, and we don't have to waste a lot of time on things that you may not want to hear. So do I have any other tickers or anything you guys want to see? This was some great action in the stock market here. And, for next week, I'm anticipating, unless some news comes out, I'm anticipating continued strength, and that's all we can do until the market provides evidence that it wants to turn. Okay, and again, a big mistake that a lot of people make, and I go over this a lot, big mistake is they come into the market opinionated, and they say things like, oh, the Nasdaq's too high, oh, the S&P is too high, oh, there's too much negative news, oh, there's all these businesses are going out of business, all this and all that, whatever. Doesn't mean anything. Okay, the only thing that means something is price action, and the reason why it works that way is because price is a discounting mechanism, and it knows it basically is acting on information that you may not know about, but someone knows about it, and they're acting on it, and they're placing orders, right? And that's what order flow is all about. So all the known information in the world is being baked into price now, and that's why we can't come into this with opinions, especially on the short term. Okay, so yeah, when it takes out those early targets, yeah, that's because you're reducing your risk, and that's the main thing. And it gives you a lot of flexibility as well. NVTA, sure, let's take a look at it, and then we can wrap this up. Market's going to close soon too. NVTA and VTA. We've talked about this one a lot. Now look, this consolidation looks very similar to that MITK, that MITK, whatever that one's called, MITK. Looks very similar. Right, where you had that initial rally and then it just kind of does some garbage for a little while, and when this thing breaks out, it goes. So this would be, again, another consolidation breakout type of thing. Your resistance is here, which is what, 18, we'll say 18 and a half. And obviously it's having a hard time with that. Now, the support keeps rising, which is a good sign, but you need to close above that 18 and a half. And then this thing at least has a chance to pop. And you can see this thing back in the low 20s, right? The key thing is it's got to maintain these above these lows. Now, if it goes slightly lower, because if the Nasdaq pulls back, your key level here is still this level, which is what is this? Around the 13 and a half level right here, 13 and a half. So that defines this structure still as bullish, even though it's hesitating at the moment. So, if you're long, you just have to let this thing ride and let this thing work itself out, and hopefully you get that push. Again, this is going to be another one that's very news driven, because with the market as strong as it is, you would think you'd be breaking out today, and it's not breaking out. So that's relative weakness. If the Nasdaq pulls back, I would anticipate this thing to probably test the lower part of the range. So like I said, you can't react to that kind of thing. It's like you have your stop in place, you have your targets in place, and you just have to let the market determine. The key thing is if it closes below this 13, and a quarter level, or basically 13 level, 13 and a half, closes below that, that's when there's a change in the structure, which means this thing could fool around between here and there. And it could look really annoying. It could turn into a head and shoulders, a lower high. It could turn into all kinds of things that can throw you off or confuse you. Just keep in mind, we need to stay above that key level, okay? And it may even provide a new buying opportunity if it pulls back to one of these supports and then gives you a nice buying candle, like a nice pin bar or something. So something to keep in mind there, okay? TSN. All right, you guys got me now. All right, so let's see, TSN. We'll do that one and then we'll wrap it up. All right. So this one was a pain. Someone asked, I think maybe it was you, Michael, or someone asked the other day. I know I went over TSN, and it wasn't looking so good, right? It had this bearish outside candle just the other day, and look at how it changed between yesterday, this nice bullish reversal situation, and now look at this where it is now. This breakout, and now it's just kind of lingering, giving it back a bit. Okay, fine, let it give it back a bit, that's fine. The fact that you're closing above nicely like this, the fact that you're closing nicely like this, that is a sign of strength because you're closing above the range, okay? It's not like it gave the whole thing back. So this is a breakout, and you just have, again, you have to let this thing ride. The key levels, well, you cleared the resistance, so, and this thing's going to close in 8 minutes, so obviously you're going to close above the resistance, so that's nice. I would anticipate that this thing should at least hold above this resistance, which is basically 64, so basically 65. That level should act as a support. Now today, the low is 64.25 today. I would anticipate that next week, that 65 level or 64.5, it should hold, okay? Old resistance becomes new support and vice versa. And I would at least expect a higher low or something in this thing to continue. Again, this is another one that can give a continuation pattern to go long. If you get like an inside bar or something after a breakout, those are great continuation patterns where you can add some shares. We had some people asking about, when can you add? That's the type of situation where you can add. Again, you don't want to go nuts, but maybe you add another, if you have 100 shares, maybe you add another 30 shares or something like that. Why not? If it's giving you the opportunity, you're not taking huge risk and it's giving you a chance to buy more. So, we'll keep an eye on something like that. But I like this thing long, as long as it's doing stuff like this. You have a higher low, you have the higher high. If you get pulled back a bit, hey, fine, no problem. Let that thing push. I mean, your next resistance on this thing is here, around here. So this thing's got some room to run. And that's like 76.89. So you could say 76.5. You got some potential in there still now that you got this breakout in play. So definitely nice price action there. And again, this obviously is not as sensitive to the NASDAQ because the NASDAQ has been very strong and this thing's been like kind of like, not really doing that great. And now today we have something. So these food stocks tend to be a little more event driven as well. So it's just something to keep in mind. Okay, no problem, Michael. But yeah, this thing may give an opportunity. So if you're not in TSN and we get that kind of pullback situation with an inside bar, that can also give you an opportunity to maybe take a small bite. So maybe if your normal size is 100 shares, for example, maybe you could put on 50 shares. And I know you guys in the Eurozone, it may not be worthwhile to take the smaller positions because of the Euro friction and all that stuff. So I understand. But, just using 100 shares as an example, if your normal size is 100, maybe when you get a chance to take a small bite, you take half the position or a third of the position to compensate for the risk, that this thing continues to pull back, especially in light of the position of the stock market, which, the higher it goes, it's great, but it gets more vulnerable. And at some point, it's going to turn, and we don't want to get caught in that turn when it pulls back. Okay, or at least we want to be minimized. We want to have our exposure minimized. All right, great. So yeah, so that's what I'd say about that. I wouldn't buy this thing now. Let this thing at least give you some sort of stability, a stability sign, like an inside bar or something like that. That would be better. Okay. So great questions. Great questions. All right, so if that's it, let's see how long have I been talking. I know you guys like to listen to me talk. 40 minutes. Okay, I get tired of hearing myself talk all the time. I talk too much. So I want to thank you guys for spending the time with me here today. I hope you found this session helpful. And I don't know if you guys like the new format where you guys have more input and you guys give me stocks that you want to see. And of course, I'll have my own stocks and stuff that I'll come up with. If there's something important going on, I want to show you guys. Of course, I'm going to feature it. But I also want to spend a lot, I want to change the ratio of the amount of time to benefit you guys more. You understand? So I want to spend more time on looking at symbols that you guys want to look at and stuff like that. Even if it's something from our chat room you want to review, whatever it is, I want to make this useful for you guys, more useful. So I don't want to sit here and talk about, 10 different Forex pairs that you guys could care less about. Unless there's a good opportunity in one, of course. All right, so anyway, that's the plan. Again, thank you guys for spending the time with me. If you have any other questions, sometimes, again, in the chat room, I don't see the question, and don't feel, don't hesitate to share it again. It's not annoying us or anything. Just share the question again, because sometimes we don't see it, and one of us will get to it. Because I want to make sure that everyone's questions are always answered, especially in the active investor chat room. So that's that. All right, so guys, enjoy the rest of your day. And if there's anything else, please just share in the chat room, and we'll follow up in there. I'll have my articles out for Bitcoin, over the next couple of days, like I normally do on TradingView. And then we'll see how Sunday night opens into Monday. All right, and we'll be just keeping an eye on things until then. All right, everyone, so have a great day, enjoy, and I'll speak to you then. Thanks for watching.